Welcome to the Board of County Commissioners work session. This one, the topic is the WRIA, which is the Water Resource Inventory Area Plan for the Chehalis Basin. It's November 4th, 2020. I'm John Hutchings, the chair of the board. Also present is Vice Chair Commissioner Ty Menser. Commissioner Edwards may join us by phone. We have County Manager Ramiro Chavez, Amy Davis, the clerk of the board, and Brian Dominique, the PIO. Is Josh with us as well? Jennifer?
I have not seen him yet.
Okay.
Join in.
Well, we have CPED extraordinaire here. We've got Jennifer Davis, Community Planning Manager, and we have Caitlin Nelson, our Associate Planner. And apparently you need direction out of this briefing today to get the plan sent to Ecology, is it? For compliance with the Streamflow Restoration Act.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to, do you want to start, Romero, or turn it right over to Jennifer?
Yeah, I think you frame it right on point, Commissioner. It is expected for you to provide some guidance to staff in order to submit the plan to Ecology. The board is not submitting the plan. Is the WRIA group is the one who's submitting the plan to Ecology. And so we would like to have a consensus from the board and agreeing to this. You have heard maybe a month ago or so, a little bit of a briefing as to what the plan and some of the elements within. Here today is going to be hopefully a little more in detail. And I think there has been a couple of revisions to that. Commissioner Menser sits in that group, I believe. And he also, via myself, sent you a copy of some of the proposed revisions maybe 2 weeks ago, asking if you had any questions, which received none. So here it is. There is a timeline associated with this plan, and I believe Jennifer and Caitlin are going to walk us through the whole meal deal.
And I apologize for starting late, but we only have about, 50 minutes now. So go ahead.
Yeah, and we're so lucky to have Commissioner Menser today because he's intimately familiar, I think, with this plan, so can also be helpful. And I wanted to acknowledge that right off the bat, that and give the commissioner up front an opportunity to say, you know, what you needed to say about the plan as well. But before we get into that and have Kate run through a brief presentation, as you know, this is part of a series of briefings we've been bringing you about these WRIA plans. There are 3 that are kind of in action still in the county. The county adopted its first for Nisqually in 2019. And today we're talking about the Chehalis plan, which is technically an addendum to an existing planning document that they have. But again, I wanted to talk about first the process. I wanted to acknowledge the hard work of Kate Nelson. She's been doing a bang-up job leaning into kind of 3 different WRIA planning processes happening at the same time through the county, and she's been tracking multiple emerging issues, bringing updates to you. Brad Murphy is Kate's supervisor. Brad was in a leadership role in this planning process before he needed to take an extended break from work, and his being out has really meant that Kate needed to pick up a lot of the strings, educate me about what WRIA planning is all about, keep things moving forward. And sometimes when we come before the board, it may seem like a bit of an ask when we're like, here's this big plan and policy process, and you're not engaged in it every day. So we'll continue to do our best to keep you up to speed on the critical emerging issues and decision points that come out of all of these ongoing planning processes. So, but I wanted to acknowledge today that the good news is about the Chehalis plan is that it's gone through a lot of its review. I know Commissioner Menser has been involved in that review. Staff feel that it's also ready to move forward. It does need to be submitted to Ecology after a formal vote by the Chehalis Basin Partnership, which I believe is scheduled for November 17th is their final vote. So before Kate gets into her presentation, Commissioner Menser, I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
I'm going to let Caitlin describe it. I mean, I was at the last meeting, and I can certainly chime in at the end if I feel like she omitted something that might be of relevance. High level, it's been done well. I mean, there's some revisions that were made to try to make the ranking system. They're balancing like the certainty of the water offset versus the certainty of the project being able to occur, and then spreading it across the different subbasins. There's a lot of finessing there, and then Caitlin, maybe if I'm sure you might describe. It's probably worth letting the board know the Quinault position. Because they were the only group to really speak out with some reservations, even though they're not opposing the plan and they're going to support its submittal to ecology. But it's worth knowing what they had to say. But other than that, I'm pretty comfortable with it. I think a lot of work went into it, and a lot of voices. The Chehalis Basin benefited from a long-standing group with already established relationships, so they were able to get right to work and not face some of the things that I don't know firsthand, but Caitlin has described some of the challenges in the other RIAs that I don't think Chehalis had. So that's all I'll say.
Hey, Kate, I'll hand it over to you if you want to share your screen and go through the PowerPoint.
Commissioner Edwards has been having problems joining the meeting, so I'll ask him if he can join via the conference call.
Okay. Does he have the phone number, or do I need to give it to him?
I already passed that on to him. Thank you.
I know.
Do you want me to give it a minute?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Please.
Hey.
Okay. So the deadline for ecology to approve the plan, the Chehalis Plan Addendum that we're talking about, is February 2021. And in order to allow enough time for ecology to review the plan, the Chehalis Basin Partnership would like to agree and submit the plan this month. Updates on the Kennedy Goldsboro and Deschutes plan will most likely be coming back in a few months when there's more of a complete draft for both to review. As we've talked about before, the plan required a few components, the main ones being to determine how much growth can be projected in the Chehalis Basin over the next 20 years, how much water is estimated to be used through new permit exempt wells, and the identification of conceptual projects that could provide enough water to offset the amount estimated to be used over that time period. The goal of the plan, aside from meeting the requirements of the Streamflow Restoration Act, are to protect water resources for residents and for fish. Members attempted to find projects throughout the entire watershed, but also with a focus on areas with higher growth projections. There are a variety of project types with different levels of development, some that are just general concepts based on available land, and others that have been discussed by other groups and might already have designs that have been considered. With Streamflow Restoration grant rounds, members of the Chehalis Basin Partnership will attempt to acquire funding for project feasibility studies, design, or project implementation. Like Ty mentioned, there are some members that wanted to go a bit above and beyond what the minimum plan requirements were. And one of those is the Quinault Indian Nation, who did agree to approve the plan with the others, but will be submitting a letter identifying what their concerns are. A lot of their concerns in the group were the amount of information that we had on projects in order to provide those estimated offset amounts. So they had a hard time with how conceptual the project ideas were. They wanted something that was more solid with more designs. And I think that with the group talking about their desire to implement the plan and continue working on it, that's where they got to the point where they agreed to approve it with the rest. So at that point, I wasn't planning on getting into many details of the plan unless you had questions. So at this point, I'm asking for direction from the board on the following two options. Option one, to provide direction for the county to vote at the upcoming Chehalis WRIA meeting to submit the draft plan to ecology, or option two, to request additional changes to the draft plan.
Thank you, Kate. Commissioner Edwards, were you able to follow along?
Yes, I'm able to follow along. I've used all paperwork as well. Yeah,
Okay.
So I'm ready for option one. I don't know how much in-depth information you're going to receive from staff, but I believe Commissioner Mentzer's been representing our position on this anyway for some time, hasn't he?
Yes, for, what, 2 years, Ty, now?
That's how long I've been involved. I think it's, started just right before that.
I believe the option one is what's being is the preferred option, and so I have no other changes that I can think of. It's a pretty substantial plan draft, so I'm ready to make that decision or give that direction as well. Ty, do you have anything else to add?
I would just throw in one of the revisions from draft one to draft two was some fleshing out of the implementation and adaptive management chapter. Trying to create some more detail. I can't remember which groups wanted to see that, but that was a request, and that was worked through with a schedule for implementation and calling for a work plan if funding can be identified, a tracking of the projects, which I think is pretty cool, and to have the Chehalis Basin Partnership continue to meet, potentially bi-monthly. We're still discussing that, but to kind of keep on track with the monitoring. I mean, folks volunteer their time in that group and have for years. So I think that although there is, some conceptual stuff in there, I think that the group is well positioned to see some of these projects come to fruition. There's some forestry management projects that I think could be really cool and adaptable to other places. So yeah, I definitely strongly support option one.
Looks like there's 3 or 4 people associated with or representing the Quinault Indian Nation. Were they a standalone and wanting something more or additional? Kate?
They were, they felt strongly about it compared to others that maybe had some ideas that they wanted to propose. The Quinault Indian Nation are the ones who proposed the changed language in the adaptive management section, where we would, as a group, continue to meet and check in 5 years and that kind of thing. I think there were some members with WDFW that were also interested, but they have as a different type of organization, their input is handled a little bit differently.
Okay.
Yeah, I had some notes on that. They contributed to some of the adaptive management revisions, according to my notes, and they also their representative made a statement at the meeting saying that they do approve the plan. They had what I would call more minor concerns, kind of about the spread between sub-basins. Or there were certain sub-basins without projects, so I don't have details on that, but that's what I jotted down. It was more minor, but they were definitely very involved in the revisions from the draft one to draft two.
Oh, very good. Well, that wraps it up. I guess you're getting three thumbs up for option one.
Wonderful.
Okay. Anything else you need? You might as well. You got us on a good side. On a good day.
While we're here, I just wanted to clarify that Commissioner Mentzer, will you be at the November 17th meeting to render this vote for submittal?
I will. I didn't think I was, but our board meeting that day for some reason is canceled apparently, or not happening. So I will be in attendance.
Okay. And if something comes up, you can let us know, and we can have Josh is willing to attend as well to render the vote. So
we have 5 public hearings that day, but they start at 4, and the meeting is supposed to be from 2 to 4, so should be good.
I have a clarification on the 17th, November 17th. Is that an actual vote, or the group has to reach a consensus? Do you know the form of voting? Because I thought they needed to reach a consensus and submitting the plan to a college. Just curious.
Yes. So the November 17th date is where they will vote to determine that they meet consensus.
We have categories. We can say that we love it, we're good with it, minor details, or we're not going to oppose it anyway, as long as we fall into one of the top boxes, then that's
So
considered consensus.
okay,
All in our operating.
that's a form of consensus because the actual voting is a little bit different than consensus. Okay, thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Kate. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you to Josh, he's watching. Thank you, Commissioner Edwards, for calling in. We're going to see you at the next one at 3:30 for the Capital Lake Deschutes Estuary Funding Governance Work.
Hey, Hatch.
Yep.
Hey, I just have to commend Commissioner Menser for, if he can get those 35 plus members on his committee and it goes as a consensus, that's going to be an amazing feat.
Yeah. Good point.
I want to
Very
thank
good point.
Kate too. I mean, Caitlin's been on one of the she's been, there are different levels and she's deeply embedded in doing the hard work. I just sit there and, we keep things on track at a very high level. I forget what they call it, the executive committee or whatnot, but there's a lot of subgroups that have done a lot of work. And Kevin Hansen was involved, I think, providing information from Thurston County. TRPC was involved, providing population estimates and whatnot for the initial calculation of development and whatnot. So it's a lot of pieces, a lot of important pieces went into it.
Yeah, and Brad Murphy as well.
And Brad too, right?
Yeah. No, look at see, quite a few. That's great. But good point, Gary. Thank you for mentioning that. Thank you, Ty.
Yep.
All right.
Guys.
Thank you, Romero. This briefing is over. We're done and sorted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Commissioner Edwards. We'll see you at 3:30.
Hey. Well, let's see, which one we got at 3:30?
Is the Capital Lake briefing?
The Capital Lake briefing is a fun